Welcome back to the Friday the 13th YouTube channel, Metalheads. Today I've got an interview with you with a band called Sacred Warrior. Now, Sacred Warrior are a Christian metal band that have been around since the late 80s. They're a fantastic band. They've done some great albums. And if you're a fan of Queensryche and Maiden, then you're really going to like this band. I'd like to thank Ray for doing this interview. God bless you, brother. So please check out this interview, guys. Please share on social media as always. And please check out the albums. There's a link at the end of this interview for you to check out some of the music. Take care, Metalheads. Enjoy the interview. Speak to you soon. Greetings, Metalheads. We're talking to Ray from the band Sacred Warrior. Welcome to Friday 13th. Hope you're having a good day.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
So I'm gonna. This is the first interview we've done. I mean, I grew up listening to you guys in the early 90s. The first time I discovered you guys was with a company called there was a Christian company in the UK that used to do like CDs, and I just discovered you guys and other bands like Recon and Believer and Deliverance and Tourniquet. So this is the first time I discovered you guys, and I was kind of blown away how cool there's some really good Christian bands out there.
Awesome, man.
You know, I don't judge people for what they believe in. You know, I mean, I can listen to Deicide or I can listen to you guys. If the music's good, then that's all that counts.
Yeah. I listen to all kinds of music myself, so yeah.
Yeah, so, well, thank you for doing this interview. I'm going to ask you some warm-up question first, Brett. As a vocalist, who inspired you, and was there anybody in your family that were musicians?
So I would say for me, you're going to laugh when I tell you this, but Tom Jones, you know who Tom Jones is?
Oh, no, never heard of him.
Yeah. Dude, when I would watch him and he's not unusual to be loved, I was like, wow, listen to that guy's voice, man. The tone in his voice. And he was just a cool cat, right? And I was a little kid and I was like, man, that was a real big inspiration for me, was listening to him. And then as I got older, I got into like Maiden and Dio, and then Queensryche came along. Jeff Tate, blown away. I was blown away by that. And I was like, I want to pattern myself after that guy. Which ultimately,
and you have.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's ultimately what Sacred Warrior came out style-wise, was not being a Queensryche clone, because there's a lot of bands that really try to clone them. We didn't try that, but we didn't want to have that similar style and sound,
So I mean, is there anybody in your family that are musicians that kind of inspired you?
So my mom, believe it or not, was a concert pianist. She played piano for the president of Mexico several times, and my grandfather was a violinist, and then now my kids. Let me see, all but two of them are really musicians now as well, and are doing quite well, actually, but prior to that, it was pretty much just my mom.
Well, interesting. So, I mean, who inspired you then? You got Dio, was Rob Halford in there, and was there anybody like Fates Warning singers? Because I kind of get the vibe there's a little Fates Warning in your vocals.
Oh, Ray, yeah. I do sound a little bit like Ray from Fates Warning, yeah. We actually did a show with them at a place called the Thirsty Whale in Illinois, and it was great. Yeah, Ray's a great vocalist too.
When did you support Fates Warning? What year was that?
Gosh, man, I couldn't even tell you.
Was it like the mid 80s, early 90s?
Early 90s for sure. Yeah, maybe 92, 93.
Right, yeah, that would probably be in the Inside Out album, maybe for Fates Warning, maybe just
probably,
before then. Yeah. I mean, was you influenced by any other English singers? I mean, a lot of people, I mentioned people like Biff out of Saxon. Was he an inspiration to you, or Glenn Hughes, or any of those kind of singers?
Michael England from Evergrey.
Oh, Tom England.
Or Tom England.
Yeah, he's a good singer.
That guy.
Yeah.
So his funny story is my wife didn't like Tommy's voice initially when I would start playing Evergrey for her. She's like, yeah, I don't see it, And then as I would sneak a song in there for her to hear it, then she'd be like, wow, this is good. Who's that? I said, that's Evergrey, So he just sings with so much conviction, right?
Yeah.
So, for me, part of it's the tone, and part of it is I like to sing with conviction and passion, and vocalists that attract me to that kind of stuff is what I really like to listen to. You know what I'm saying? I would say he was another one, Tommy.
Wow. So, I mean, are you actually still based you're in Florida now, aren't you? Because the band are from Chicago, Illinois.
Correct, correct. We've been in Florida about 28 years now.
Is that the
Originally from
whole, is that the
Chicago.
whole band or just your family?
No, just me and my family. So the rest of the guys are still in Illinois.
Right.
But me and my wife and my kids, 6 kids, we're all here in
Well,
Florida.
one of my favorite bands are from Chicago, and they're also a Christian band. You must know they are. Trouble, Doom
Who is it?
Gods,
What
Trouble,
is it?
Trouble.
Trouble?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, Trouble.
Doom Gods.
Yeah. So Bruce, Bruce from Trouble.
Yeah, I know those guys.
Yeah, we used to go to the same church. We used
Wow.
to go to the Warehouse Church. Yeah, yeah. Right after we got saved, before Sacred Warrior started, we all went to the Warehouse Church, and that's how we met Bruce and hung out with him some. And then Sacred Warrior really started out in the Warehouse Church in Aurora.
Wow,
Illinois.
awesome.
Pretty cool.
So,
Yeah.
what was your first band, Ray, before Sacred Warrior? What was your first band?
I had a band. I can't even remember the name of it. But we were doing a lot of like Boston covers, um, just some good old rock and roll stuff. I can't remember the name of that band, but while we were doing that, me and Tony Velasquez were talking all the time about we should get another band going between us. And eventually I left that band, and me and Tony and Bruce Swift started a band, and we called it Nomad. And we had another guitar player, Nick Fabia, and our bass player was Bill McGuffey. And we started getting really popular just locally, you know what I'm saying? And then shortly after that, Bruce gets saved and quits the band, and Tony gets saved and quits the band. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's over with. So then eventually Sacred Warrior came out of that. But I
So,
would say probably Nomad was one of the biggest things for me
did
prior
you
to
actually
Sacred
do
Warrior.
any albums or demos that are available on YouTube for us to check
Ah,
out?
no, there are some cassettes. I don't know if you know what those are.
Yeah, I've still got loads of demos from when I
Oh, do you
first.
really?
Yeah, I've got
Yeah,
Ice
I think,
Death demos and all those bands. Yeah.
yeah. Either Tony Velasquez or Bruce Swift has a cassette of us way back then. I need to find out where it is, and I'll reach out to you on the side and see if I can get you a copy of it or something. But
Oh,
they were actually
please.
really good.
I'd like to hear it, definitely. So
Yeah.
the names, Sacred Warrior, who came up with the name and what other names did you have back in the early days?
So we were all together. So let me give you a little bit of history of how it all started first.
Yeah.
After we all got saved, we started going to the Warehouse Church in Aurora with Pastor Randy Schultz. Love that guy. And Bruce, like I said, Bruce and them were there. And we started just really getting to know the Lord and reading the Bible and all that. We kind of took a break from music, like almost 9 or 10 months. And then we heard that a band was coming into town and they needed an opening band. And we're like, okay, so who is it? And they're like, well, there's this band called White Cross.
Oh,
They're
yeah, I
coming
know
into
those guys.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they needed another band to support them, right? And we didn't have a band at that time. And we're like, Pastor Randy asked us, he goes, you guys want to put something together and maybe open up for this band White Cross? And we're like, yeah, sure, why not? So we got together with another guy from the church, Jeff, and then we just did like some Saint. We did, I think, a couple of Striper covers, and we didn't do any originals at that time. We did like 5 or 6 songs. And when we were doing our sound check at that hall, Caesar Kalinowski, who signed White Cross and really was their manager, he was watching our sound check. After our sound check, he came in the dressing room and he said, I want to sign you guys right now, 5 albums, 5 years, no questions asked. And, inside we're all excited, but it was like, we needed to know who he was, what was he about, what kind of support did he have? We didn't just want to jump into it just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
So that was like in July. And then in December, we ended up signing with him. But prior to signing with him, we're like, man, so if we're going to do this, we need a band name and we really need to get a band. And we talked to Pastor Randy and he said, well, there's a guy in the church, Steve Watkins. He's a bass player. So we talked to him and he's like, yeah, he goes, I'd be interested, but then we're like, he goes, but I really want to play guitar instead of bass. No, I'm sorry. He was a guitar player and we told him we needed a bass player. And Steve's attitude was, you know what? I'll sell all my gear and I'll learn how to play bass. Well, if you can play guitar, you can play bass, right?
Yeah.
So he sold all his gear, started playing bass, and we ended up putting the band together. And then Rick Macias, who was a real good friend of mine growing up as little kids, led him to the Lord, got him to join Sacred Warrior, and now we really needed a name. So we're like, what are we going to call the band? And we're all together in our rehearsal space. And Tony's brother, Nick, says, how about Sacred Heart? And we're like, that kind of sounds a little cheesy, like, oh, here's Sacred Heart, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just didn't think it was, metal enough. So we just tossed around the idea, and then we just said, hey, Sacred Warrior, what about Sacred Warrior? And we're all like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And then we thought about it for a little bit, and then we decided to call it Sacred Warrior. And that's how it began.
So was your first demos similar to the first album, the kind of the Iron Maiden Queensryche sort of vibe, or was it completely different?
No, it's really similar. In fact, we have that on Reel to Reel somewhere. Some of the songs on there were man, you caught me off guard. I'm getting old, brother.
That's good. It's good when I catch people off guard because it makes them think.
Yeah. But The Heavens Are Calling. There was a few songs on there that we took off of that. I think Rebellion was one of them on our first demo that we did. But we just kind of rewrote them and redid it. When we got in the studio, Caesar really brought it out of us, and it just turned up to be, the Rebellion record pretty much. Half of that was the demo we had, and the other half was the rest of the songs that we wrote. So believe it or not, a couple of those songs we wrote while we were in the studio, or finished anyways,
So you said earlier on that you worked with White Cross. Was this the guy who had Intense Records? Did he own Intense Records?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Because they were a really good label back in the day. They had some really good bands.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they signed, Deliverance, Vengeance, White Cross, Sacred Warrior, and a couple other bands.
Recon.
Recon, yeah.
I mean, they were like the equivalent of Metal Blade, the Christian version of Metal Blade, weren't they? Really?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, the first album, I didn't actually hear the first album, Rebellion, which was released in 1988. I missed that one. I got into you guys when you released Master's Command, which I think is a great album. And then I kind of went backwards. I really liked Master's Command. I thought it was an awesome album. And then I went back and listened to Rebellion. I was kind of like, I don't know if I kind of like this as much. Because I went, you know what I mean? I went backwards before I thought, But I got into it, eventually got into it. But that Master's Command album for me as a debut was awesome. Really powerful album.
Yeah.
It had a really really symphonic drum sound there. Was it a synth kit on the album?
At that time, at that particular time, if you listen to all our albums, I don't think the production was what it could have been. We were new at it, kind of settling. I'll be honest with you, for Master's Command record, for most of that, we were in LA recording that one. And I probably spent most of my time upset while in the studio because I didn't like the drum tones. I just didn't like what I was hearing, but I didn't have any say-so. I thought I love the songs, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
The quality of the production was just like, man, I wasn't feeling it, And it seemed like as we went on, it got a little better. But in my personal opinion, I don't think we ever got the quality that I really wanted. You know what I mean? So I spent a lot of time upset. But if I had to say, sonic-wise, I think Obsessions was probably the best sounding record out of all of them. And it was, our fourth record, but just wasn't happy with it,
Yeah, like I said, the Master's Command's a great album, but I just felt like the drums on it, being a drummer, kind of like it sounded like a synth kit. They didn't quite sound like a proper kit.
Yeah, no, I mean, Tony was playing the real kit, and we were using triggers, trying to come up with a sound, but it just wasn't right,
So, I mean, as a debut album, we'll go back to the debut album, like Rebellion 1988. Was that a strong selling debut album for you? And how
it was?
How did the Christian community and metal community in general take this album?
Yeah, no, it was, and it was very well received. We were getting calls left and right to do shows here and there and everywhere, and then we eventually ended up going on tour with Res Band.
I remember them. Yeah.
And I will say one thing. The end result for Sacred Warrior, after our first record and we started going out headlining, the opening acts that came with us, we treated them like gold, because Res Band gave us the same sound. We had the same amount of rooms. We ate the same food. We had a great sound check. They didn't try to cut it down. Back in the day, this.
Yeah.
The worse you can make the opening act sound, the better you sound, right?
Yeah.
Rez wasn't.
shitty lights on stage and all that for support
Yeah,
acts.
man. Yeah, and Rez wasn't like that. What they had, we had. Glenn Kaiser and John and them guys, they treated us like gold. And so for us, yeah, obviously we wanted to have great sound and great lights and everything, and we wanted to get the word across, which is, Sacred Warrior. That's what we're all about, you know. But we were treated so good, and that really helped to set the pace for us and how we would continue and how we would treat other bands as they perform with us.
That's a good thing. That's a good attitude to have. So I
The
mean,
album did really well.
that's good. I mean, like the third album, that's my favorite album, Wicked Generation. Great album. Every song was solid. Everything was just like, this was like, to me, it was like The Warning.
Yeah.
Kind of, I love The
Yeah.
Warning. That's my favorite Queensryche album ever.
Mine too.
If it wasn't for that album, for me, that was like the first progressive power metal album. That's the thing. Would you class you guys as progressive power metal? Because there's a lot of bands from America that do it so well.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, Wicked Generation, it didn't start out, it kind of ended up as a concept album because, there's a storyline through it. We didn't start out that way. What we did was we wanted to write some songs about some issues that other bands didn't want to talk about, sexual abuse in the home, rape, yada, 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 right?
Yeah.
Another big one was, if you're a Christian band, you can't play in bars, and which is Minister by Night, And really, it was crazy because when we would come in wherever we were performing, we'd bring the same gospel, the same everything, and it was received very well, even in the bars. You see a bunch of people that are getting all wasted and drunk, but at the end of the night, they're raising their hands, praising Jesus, and stuff like that. So it really worked for us, But as we started writing these songs, we're like, man, this is really turning into a concept album. So we even did the little cheesy notes in between, which to me, I listen to now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so cheesy, right? But the songs were all great, And that was, in fact, I had Glenn Kaiser from Rez Band allowed us to go into Japuza, which was their, Japuza, Jesus People USA, their community that they had. So Rez Band, they had a community where they took all apartment buildings, like 3 or 4 of them in downtown Chicago, in the worst area, where they would take in homeless people and they would minister to them, and they'd let them live there. And the way it worked out is they would tell them to go out and work, and all the money went back into the community, and all the money Rez Band made on tour went back into the community. But there was a lot of people there who were struggling with drugs, all kinds of addiction, sexual abuse, everything. So Glenn, I had asked him if I can come interview a few people for that record, and he said, yeah. So I went in and talked to several people, and a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the stories on that album are true stories, And so if you listen to Miss Linda, there was this place right across the street from where we were at, and there was this fortune teller lady, and she was trying to tell people, this and that, all kinds of lies and stuff, and we kind of wrote a song about that as well, kind of bringing out the falsehoods of that kind of thing, as far as we knew and we were concerned. We never did any deep studies on it, but it doesn't take a scientist or a scholar to know when if you go sit before them and they're telling you a complete lie, like, oh, I'm looking in this crystal ball and you were daddy's little girl. Well, really, I was raped by daddy. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So, but that to me was just such a powerful record because of so many things that were surrounded by it. Ooh, sorry about that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Operation Mindcrime, the kind of concept. Yeah. Was that the kind of idea you were going for, but in your own style?
No, not really. But it just ended up that way. It just ended up that way. Yeah.
I noticed that you've used Roger from Vengeance Rising. It was at the song The Flood.
The Flood, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Vengeance Rising were a pretty good band, but they always seem to lack really bad productions. They used to get really bad productions, especially with the drums. Yeah. Same problems, it's just like they were good back in the day for what they did.
Yeah. And you know what? We're still friends with all those guys.
Yeah, that's cool.
Roger Martin, Glenn Mancaruso. Yeah, just the only one that we don't have anything to do with anymore is with really Roger Martinez. He kind of went off the deep end. And he's doing his own thing, but the fact that he was just totally renouncing God and calling Christians out, and just, it was just, you know what, we didn't want anything to do with that, you know.
No, kind of turned his back on Christ, kind
Yeah,
of, in a way.
yeah, he totally did. Yeah,
That's a
totally.
shame. I mean, the last album that he did with Obsessions, that was even stronger album. I think that album had Kamikaze on it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, how did you see that album? How do you see each album as a progression in the first four albums? How do you see each album progress when you're around?
Well, for me, I think that the storyline got better every time with every record, and just the issues that we were talking about. Like I said, every song we wrote, pretty much all the way across, is real life stuff, you know. And the title track Obsessions itself talks about people's obsession with worldly things. You know, how many plaques can I get on the wall? How much money can I get? You know,
Yeah.
where they totally lose focus on, if you focus on Christ, he's going to bring all these things to you. You know what I'm saying? And he may not. I'm not saying that if you get saved and you focus on Christ, you're going to be rich, you're going to be a millionaire, you're going to get everything, but you're going to be on the right path. You know what I'm saying? And the Bible says that he gives you the desires of your heart, but that's twofold. He gives you the desires of your heart, but he also gives you those desires to desire the things of your heart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of a catch-22, but I just think that every record, just as we saw things coming, we would write and think, okay, we don't want to rewrite about the same concept, so let's write about, you know, this is what's going on today, this is what we're thinking about, and, you know, yada yada yada. You know, so that's kind of how we moved on.
I mean, I'm sadly to hear that your keyboard player Rick died in 2009. I'm sorry to hear that. What happened to him? What was his condition, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't mind. So, like I was telling you, Rick and I were great friends for years and years and years, you know. And I'm the one that got him in Sacred Warrior. And then what happened was he came here to Florida to visit me. And he came Friday, and Saturday. We hung out all day Saturday. We did a barbecue and everything. I invited him to go to church with us on Sunday. And he said that he would go back, he would come back. He said he had to go visit another friend in Orlando. And I said, okay, well, church starts at 10. You know, he goes, oh, I'll be back way before that. And he left. He hung out with us all day. That evening, he left. And then Sunday comes around. I'm calling him, no Rick. And I'm like, well, he probably overslept or whatever. So I let it go. And I tried calling him Sunday after church and then Sunday evening, because I knew he was going to head back Monday or Tuesday. And I wanted to say goodbye to him. And I never got a hold of him. So Monday, I'm at work now. I'm in my truck. And I get a call from Chris, his wife. And I said, hey, Chris, how's it going, man? And what she said to me is, Rick's dead. Whoa. Not, hey, how's it going, or nothing like that. She just said, Rick's dead. I was like, oh, my God, man, I can't believe that. She's like, yeah, he had a heart attack, and they found him in his hotel. He had a heart attack Sunday morning, and he was in his hotel all day Sunday. And Monday, when they came to clean out the room, they found him in there dead.
I'm sorry.
So he just had a massive heart attack. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So moving on, I'm going to ask you, how does the non-Christian community feel about your band? I mean, is there any clashes at gigs, or is it the normal community? They just all bond together?
Yeah, no, you know what? I don't know if you know, we just played with Queensryche.
Yeah, I'm friends with Todd, and you know.
Okay, yeah. So we just played with them, and you know, right now we go out. I'm going to say this: my friends, my wife and I, my kids, we'll go out to a concert, and a lot of times, if you're not the main act, a lot of people sit down, right?
Yeah. Oh, they're at the bar. Yeah, they're at the bar. I'm forgetting about.
Yeah. The ones in front, they're all standing up. But I was watching, because there was a lot of Christian bands opening up for secular bands at this Immortal Fest, you know, well, not Immortal Fest, but the BMI Event Center. And I'm watching the videos, White Cross and them Saint, and I'm like, man, these people are all sitting down. And I'm thinking in my mind, okay, it could be one of three things. Either they're not liking the band, or they're just old and don't want to get up, you know what I'm saying? Or they don't like the message, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling the guys, you know, I had several people say, are you nervous to go play? I'm like, no, not at all. We're not there to compete with Queensryche. We're there to support them, right? And we got there, and we did our set. And during the set, I'm the kind of guy, I look people in the eyes when I sing. I don't do a general sing. I look people in the eyes and I draw them out and I talk to them. And I started doing that and I saw nothing but smiles, right? It was really good. And then I'm a challenger. I challenge people to get up, right? So people would get up and they'd rock out for a song and then they'd sit down. And I do it halfway through the set. And then I did it at the end. I got everybody up again. And I noticed Bruce talked about Jesus probably a minute and a half, but it wasn't a message of salvation, but it was, basically what he said is, hey, look, while we're up here playing, you're going to hear Jesus, you're going to hear Satan, you're going to hear this and that. And we're just here to tell you guys what we're about. And if you're not into that, we're okay with that. We're not here to condemn you. But if you want to know, we're going to be at our merch table at the end, and people clapped even for that. And then we did our song and we did our last song and there was not one person sitting there all sourpuss like that. Nobody, man. Everybody enjoyed the show just as much as we did, and so many people afterwards came up to our merch table and they're like, who are you guys? And why haven't we heard of you before? And we're like, well, if you don't listen to Christian rock, you may not have ever heard us, but they're all like, man, you guys are good. So many Queensryche fans that were not Christians we sold all our merchandise.
Good.
They took pictures with it. You see this banner I got behind me?
Yeah.
So we have those for our merch table, but not to sell, just as part of our thing. We sold 2 of those, I think. People really loved it, And then there was some Christians that were there also that said, hey, man, we're so glad that you guys talked about the Lord, but you didn't overdo it where you turn people off. Realistically, we talked about the Lord so much, but it was through our music.
Yeah. So how did you get on with the Queensryche guys? Because I've interviewed Michael a few times and I met Todd, the cool guys.
Yeah. So we talked to them. Steve. So let's go back. Steve, our bass player, him, Bruce, and I think Tony spent more time with them than I did. And it wasn't a lot of time. It was just a few minutes here and there. I know Steve played with the drummer. He prayed with him.
Casey, yeah, actually, I know Casey from Camelot.
yeah, man. Camelot. Yes, that's another band.
I stayed at Tom's house in Florida 20 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love Camelot, man. Love Camelot. But Steve got to pray for him because I guess he just lost a friend about a year ago. And he was feeling kind of down and depressed. So Steve's like, hey man, can I pray for you? And he's like, yeah, and he prayed for him.
That's cool.
And then Michael had told Bruce that they really liked our set. When we were playing, they were up on the balcony to the side where we're at the BMI event center. When you're eating, here's the stage over to the left. People can't see you, but you can see down. They were up there watching us for like 3 or 4 songs.
That's great.
And they told us that they really liked our band. And then what's the bass player's name?
Eddie.
Eddie told Bruce that he would love to do more shows with us.
You should come to England. You should come to England because they haven't done the tour for the new Queensryche album yet in Europe. You should support them, and I'll come out and do drum tracking for you.
Well, yeah, man. Well, here's the problem with that. We don't have a problem with doing that, other than we're promoting ourselves right now. We don't have a booking agent. We get a lot of calls, and pretty much Steve Watkins handles all that stuff. If we had a booking agent, if any booking agents are watching out there, give us a call, Sacred Warrior. That's what we need in order to get us out more.
Do you think a lot of promoters are very dubious about taking you on tour because you believe? Do you think, oh, we're not taking them on tour? Do you think that's a negative?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Because like I said, we don't overdo it. You know what I mean? We're just us,
Yeah.
You can be a better witness just by living it than speaking it, because anybody can say, hey, Jesus loves you and here's what the Bible does. But when people see it in you, when they get to know you and you live in it, you know what I mean? So I'll tell you what I think it is. We did the 4 albums and then we stopped, right?
Yeah.
And we did nothing for so long, people totally forgot who we were. It's just until now that I'm doing more of these interviews and podcasts and stuff. Now that people are saying, wow, you guys are back. Yeah, we're back. Oh, you're opening for Queensryche. You're opening for Pillar. Steve, the guy that owns the BMI event center, he's trying to get us a show with Jeff Tate with his band, so he's kind of doing that for us. But what Eddie had told Bruce is if we had a real booking agent, he could hook us up with his agent and book some shows with us together with them, you know. And the cool thing is, halfway through the Queensryche set, Todd gave a shout out to us, you know, which common, everybody does that. But
Has Todd heard your band before, Perry?
What's that?
Has Todd got on your albums? Does he know you are?
Does he really?
I'm asking you. Does he know? Does he know? I'm asking you.
Did he know? I don't know. I don't know if he does or not.
He does now.
But, I know him and Michael Sweet are good friends, you know.
Yeah.
But he, halfway through their set, he literally said, thanks, Sacred Warrior, you know, for, you know, putting on a good show. And he goes, hey, and what they said is true. He affirmed what Bruce said about the gospel. You know what I mean? So that to me was huge, because I don't personally know Todd, but I had heard that he doesn't like a whole lot of Christians. And I don't like a whole lot of Christians, if that makes sense. A lot of, you know what I mean? You know,
yeah,
just
some of them go over the top too much.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. But you know what? I just think we need a good booking agent to back us, to be able to get us more shows like that.
If I know any, I'll let you know, Perry. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right? It's not a problem, Ray. You know?
Yeah.
So just before we're going to time out very shortly, we'll have to come back and continue this interview. I'm going to ask you, why did Sacred Warrior break up after the Obsession album? What went wrong?
My fault.
Really?
My fault. Yes. I think we were either in Germany or Switzerland. No, Switzerland. And I had been missing my wife and missing my kids. And I was in the dressing room and I was like, Lord, man, I really miss my kids. I miss my wife. And I said, I need a pardon, Lord. I need you to tell me what I need to do. And I just distinctively felt like he was saying, it's got to be him first, then my family, then my ministry. And I had it backwards. It was him, then my ministry, then my family. And I was like, okay, so I need to be able to get out of this record contract in order to make it legal. So I called the record label and I said, hey, man, and I told them my whole story. And they said, well, if you feel like God's telling you to do what you got to do, then who am I to argue with God, right? He let me go. And this was the bad thing that I did. I walked up on stage, sang 2 or 3 songs. It might have even been only one song. I don't remember exactly, but I said, and I announced to the audience and to the band that would be my last show with Sacred Warrior, that I was going to retire from music. And they were just as shocked as the crowd. They're like, what? Everybody was freaking out, right? But I did that because I love these guys so much. I know they would have talked me out of it. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to be talked out of it. I had to do that, and I had to break the code, if you will, you know, in order to be able to make sure that I was going to be able to do that. It wasn't anything, nothing against the guys. What's that?
So I was going to say, did it affect the performance that night?
Not at all.
You're saying that? No,
not at all. Not at all. And as far as friendship wise, I think it mainly affected my friendship with Tony, our drummer. He was pretty bitter at me for years and years and years. Bruce and I, we stayed in contact. But Tony was upset with me, you know, and rightfully so, you know. But like I said, I did it the way I had to do it. But the cool thing, and actually it's become the joke now, is when we started talking, a few years ago, we started working on stuff again. I didn't like the direction it was going. I wanted to go heavier and more modern. So then I got with John Johnson and we started Deny the Fallen, and we've done 2 records. And are you familiar with Deny the Fallen?
No, you need to send me a link so I can check these guys out.
Oh, brother, I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
It's a lot more modern. But we've done 2 records, and then we had gotten asked to do a show at the BMI Event Center with Warrior. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'll call the guys. And I call the guys and they're like, you want to do it? Are you going to do it? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So through a series of events, we started rehearsing, and we got together and did that show. And then we played a second time at the same place. And I was like, man, I'm really feeling that again. I'm really feeling like I want to be playing again, because now it wouldn't be full time. we're willing to do 12 or 13 shows a year now, you know, and that's one a month. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we talked about it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm back, you know. But in that whole thing, prior to the Deny the Fallen, I did the Worldview record with George Ochoa.
Yeah, that's the interview I did with George. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did that record, and then that was a one record thing, and then me and John got together and we did that, you know. And ironically enough, the second Deny the Fallen album was a short EP. We did a King's X cover on there.
Which
and
one?
We did the sing-along song by Striper.
Which King's X song did you do? They were a great band back in the day. Dogman was my favorite album.
I can't remember the name of it. Like I said, I'm getting old. Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you a little bit about you left Obsession and after the Obsession album, and you came and did the Worldview album with George. I mean, when I was interviewing George, he mentioned that the Worldview album would have been Recon's second album.
Mm-hmm.
And no disrespect to you, when I listened to it, because I love the first Recon album, I think it's such a brutal album. Yeah. And I listened to that, it's just like I can't identify this as Recon's second album. It didn't do kind of agree with me on that.
No, well, I do. But what happened was I didn't want people to think I was trying to be like Vet, you know, the original singer and that.
Yeah.
And George and I, over much discussion, he allowed me to change the singing in so many ways. And then we put some other songs together and we threw some out and we said, I don't want this to be Recon 2. Let's make it a new band. And then him and I went back and forth on names, back and forth, back and forth. He ended up coming up with Worldview. And I'm like, you know what? I like that. So we ended up coming up with Worldview. And initially, probably half of the songs on that record were going to be Recon number 2, you know.
It kind of didn't sound like Recon's first song because that was like the warning. It's like the covenant. It's like I couldn't see the connection.
Right, yeah. And it's because
that's no disrespect to you guys.
No, not at all. Like I said, we didn't want it to sound like the second Recon album, you know. It was an idea, but then I'm like, I don't want to do that, you know. I want to be me, identified as me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to Queensryche for a second. Todd joined Queensryche, so he mirrored Jeff Tate, but how only Todd can. But that was the goal for that.
It's like Tim with Judas Priest.
Yeah, correct. So with that, and he's a heck of a drummer too, I hear. I've never heard him play drums, but I heard he's a great drummer as well.
Yeah, I've heard his solo album's really good.
Yeah. Oh, good, man.
It kind of sounds cross between Fight, Overkill, Testament.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty brutal.
I'll have to look back.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, man. I'll have to look back and listen to some.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't want it to sound like the Recon or anything, you know. And Turning Back was really the only song that kind of could have sounded like Recon. But even the way I changed the vocals and everything, because he had already had that song written for years, you know, and ended up just making it our own, you know, make it my own with my vocals. I don't think I'm the best vocalist in the world by far, but I think I have my own style. You're very good, though.
You're very good.
I think I have my own style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want people to pick up any record that I'm on and go, that's Ray. I know that's Ray. You know, so up until that point, after leaving Warrior, I hadn't done anything. And I feel like that Worldview record could have been so much bigger if we would have had the right push. Because I think all the songs on there are great songs. And Les Carlson sang on one of the songs with me, and Oz Fox did the solo on that song, Turning Back. But I think it could have been a lot bigger if we had the right push, you know?
Yeah, but definitely. Hey, great album cover.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a shame you didn't do another album.
Well, we're actually working on one right now.
All right, so it's you and George then, yeah?
What's that?
It's you and George.
Correct.
Yeah, say hi from me.
Gary Russell, who he was the drummer for Holy Soldier.
Well, and I've got their first 2 albums. They're really good. Especially the first album reminds me of Leatherwolf. Yes,
totally, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Yep. So and him, and then Todd, who was the bass player, he's been the bass player with George, with Recon and with other things, you know. So it's us 4, me, George. We had Johnny Gonzalez was the drummer for Recon, and he did the first Worldview record. but he's out doing his own thing. He kind of did going through what I went through. He's tired of music at the time. So he's happily married and leading a great life, you know, and he's happy with that. But so Terry, George got with Terry, and they actually are working on an album with a band called Human Code. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
With Mike Lee from
the thing is,
Cross.
when you people like you talk to me, and you mention all these bands, it excites me because I get to hear new shit, and it's like awesome. You know, I get to discover new bands that you're involved with all year.
Yeah.
No,
So
no, I
George
don't
is
know
doing,
them. I don't know them.
Yeah, he did a record. They're actually almost done with the record with Mike Lee from Barren Cross, Terry from Holy Soldier, Todd, and George. And it's called Human Code. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's got that definite Mike Lee voice, you know? And but anyway, so that was all the guys, but we have already tracked, I believe, 4 songs. I got to make a trip out there. I've been so busy with the Warrior stuff that I haven't gone out there to finish recording. But if I go out there for a long weekend, I can finish that record.
Well, good luck. You know, so, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah. I'll now that I got your info, I'll let you know when we're done with it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do another interview for that as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I mean, Mike Lee. You mentioned Mike Lee from Barren Cross. He should have auditioned for Iron Maiden when Bruce left. He had the perfect opportunity.
Totally, Bruce Dickinson. Yeah.
You know, he could have easily nailed it.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. In fact, when I first heard them, I was like, "Wow, that guy sounds like Bruce Dickinson, man. I love it." You know.
Awesome. But I mean, you've come back with Sacred Warrior because I mean, they did an album after you left called Waiting in Darkness.
Correct.
I couldn't kind of connect with that album because you left, and you was the voice of the band. It was just like it doesn't quite sound the same.
Right.
You know, it was. I mean, did it sell well for the band? You know, even though you left the band.
I know they made a video of the song Waiting in Darkness, which ironically enough, I wrote almost all the melodies for that song and the chorus. But then Eli Princeton came in after I stepped out. Him and I were friends prior to that when I was a Warrior. We were talking and he told me that he wanted to audition for Warrior. And I told him, do it, man, because I thought he had the right voice for it. Eli's voice is more of a 80s metal, which is what Warrior really is. But I think just with that record, a lot of people didn't connect. I think he did a great job on that record. He's got a great voice. But matter of fact, it's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yep. But you know, a lot of people just felt like they didn't like it because it wasn't me, you know, but you can't take away from the fact that it's a great record.
No, what band was Eli in before Sacred Warrior?
I think it was Sacrifice or something like that. I can't remember the name of it.
Sacrifice, okay. Living Sacrifice? No, not Living Sacrifice.
Not Living Sacrifice. No. Yeah, I'll have to, man, do a Google search, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will do. I mean, I listened to. In a minute, I'm going to talk to you about Deny the Fall, and when you sent me that link, I listened to that King's X song, and you've also got a Striper song on there.
Correct.
You know, what made you want to do Striper as well as King's X?
Well, honestly, we were going to do the song because we were playing at the BMI Event Center. And just Sacred Warrior, we end all our shows with Holy, Holy, Holy.
Yeah.
And at that point, we get everybody raising their hands. We put on a show and we want to end the show putting the focus on Christ, right? So Holy, Holy, what better? People got their hands up there just worshiping. So with Deny the Fallen, we're like, man, let's come up with a tune. And John says, how about we do the sing-along song? And I'm like, oh man, because we're a metal band, right? Progressive metal, new metal, whatever you want to call it, doing that song, although it's a great song. I didn't see us doing it. And John tracked all the music and he sent it to me. He goes, what do you think? And I heard it and I was like, wow, it sounds great sonically, right? So I'm like, I don't know, bro. I don't know. But I started throwing it in my truck, listening to it, and I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So we did it, and we played it live at BMI Event Center, and it came across well. And then John, he's like, man, I want it. So John's actually the one singing The Mission, the King's X song.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, great song.
Great song, right? Yeah, he's like, I want to do a song too that I want to sing. I said, well, which one? He said, The Mission. I was like, oh, King's X. Yeah, dude. So we did that, and he did all that by himself. I did the harmonies on there. but he did the whole song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that turned out great as well.
Wow. So I mean, Deny the Fallen. Who came up with the name? I was going to briefly talk about this band because not all people don't know about it. I didn't know till you told me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't know. We put the second record out on Rocks Records, and Bill helped to promote that. But I will say, a lot of Warrior fans do not like that record. And
Why?
it's because, well, I'll tell you, all the comments that I've gotten is like, oh man, you shouldn't be singing that kind of, sing Sacred Warrior, your classic stuff. And that's part of why I never went back to Warrior initially, because I wanted to do stuff like that.
Move
And
away.
Warrior,
Yeah.
we're a progressive metal, 80s metal band. And you'll hear the stuff that we're writing now. It's a little more modern, but it's still Warrior, you know, whereas this is nothing like Warrior. I wanted to get that out of me and do that, the more modern, just singing,
Unleash the
dancing.
beast, basically.
Pretty much, yes, sir. Exactly, exactly. So I think we did that. And then the name, how did we come up with that? God, I don't remember, but ultimately the meaning of that name, who was the fallen angel? Satan, right?
Yeah.
So we said, just call it deny the fallen, deny the devil without saying deny the devil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's a pretty cool catch on words right there. And people who have heard it and come to our shows love it. You know, we've done some radio shows out here where they've played the song and featured the song "Live Again." I'll send you that, which is probably the most modern song on the whole record, and people love it. But I will say this too: when they hear the new Warrior, they're gonna love that too, because we got some great stuff that we're writing. I don't want to give too much away, but one of the songs does have a Maiden feel to it on the new Warrior stuff, but it's still Warrior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
This Deny the Fallen. You'd be great supporting or doing a tour with the band The Crucified. It kind of goes
correct,
hand in
yeah.
hand. They were
Oh yeah,
hardcore, but you were like the name and your name kind of goes hand in hand.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. That'd be great. That'd be
So
great.
who's actually in Deny the Fallen then? Who's the for people that
So
want to?
it's John Johnson, who was also on the Sacred Warrior last two records. He was our second guitar player. Myself, John's son Josh is our drummer, and then Eric Kerr is the bass player. Eric is just been a friend of John's and Josh's for years, and they played in Zeal together, which was John's original band. Eric wasn't the Zeal bass player, but after they broke up, he's been doing a lot of stuff with John. So it's really just us four guys. And then I brought another guitar player in who is a real good friend of mine, Jeff Rankin, who did the first record with us, but didn't do the second record. He's kind of doing his thing now as well. So it's John, myself, Eric, and Josh.
Right then. So what's the first album called for people? And are both of these albums available on Bandcamp or where can they get them from?
You can get them on, gosh, pretty much anywhere. They're Spotify, Bandcamp. I believe they're on iTunes. Um, Actually, I'll send them to you also, but you can pretty much just go. Spotify is probably the best place to find them. You
Right.
know. So, you know what? It's a niche, not a niche, but it's in a direction that I wanted to go, but I'm glad I'm back in Warrior, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
for me now, I've got that passion again for Warrior like I had originally that I had lost for a while. I got it out of my system. And like I told you, Tony, it's funny, he always laughs. He said the prodigal son has come back. So now when I get with the guys, we always joke about that. Yeah, the prodigal son's back.
Well,
But
it's giving you time to recharge your batteries and get unleash
yeah,
the beast and then come back to what
yeah,
your heart
exactly.
belongs to,
Exactly.
which is
Mhm.
good. I mean, I've noticed that the Sacred Warrior, you've changed your logo. Why did you change the logo?
Um, just just to modernize it some. That was really the only thing.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
Anthony Gover, who does all our merch. He does a lot of merch for many, many bands. I think he told me at one point he's got like over 200 bands.
Really?
He
Wow.
came up with that logo and we just loved it. We put it on a shirt and it sells out like that. It's a very attractive logo. You know what I'm saying? People love it. They grab onto it and it just sells really well. That plus of course the music, but it sells well.
So is it like a rebirth? Is that why you've come up with a new logo? Because Judas Priest did
Yeah,
it
pretty
with
much.
Jugulator. Judas Priest did it with Jugulator and Demolition. New
Correct.
singer, new logo.
Correct. 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 Hey, the first Deny the Fallen record was called Symptoms of Eternity.
Right, brilliant. Thank
Yeah.
you, Ray. But how's the new album, the new music for Sacred Warrior going to be compared to the early ones that you did? Is it still pretty much Sacred Warrior? Are we going for a heavier approach, but still?
Yeah. Yeah. It's still going to be very much Sacred Warrior, progressive metal, still the same message. We're not going to change that at all. Um, Production wise, 100 times better, because now we have more control over it, and Steve Watkins, who's our bass player, he's got such a great ear for music. That guy, he's a great producer, and he's pretty much running all the production, but now we're going to have more input on it. You know what I'm saying? We don't have a label yet interested in us or anything, but we're kind of like at the baby steps of writing and recording right now. So it's going to be a minute. We talked about maybe releasing an EP just to get some of the stuff out, but it's gonna be Warrior. There's gonna be no doubt in anybody's mind when they hear it. That's Sacred Warrior.
Wow, that's awesome. So, do you have any song titles? Are you allowed to tell me, or are you keeping that hush?
Uh, yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it hush for now.
So, how many songs do you think you're going to have on this new album?
Well, if we do a full record, probably 9 or 10 songs, but um, probably we're talking about releasing maybe a 4-song demo, not demo, 4-song EP for now, because it's kind of difficult. Because do you remember the band Fear Not?
I remember the name vaguely. Yes.
Okay, so I forgot to mention this. When Sacred Warrior got back together, we started back with John Johnson again in Warrior, but he's kind of dealing with some personal stuff right now and decided to step back. So we took Larry Worley, who was the guitar player and lead vocalist for Fear Not, who is our second guitar player now.
Can I just ask you, was he in Galactic Cowboys?
I don't know if he was or not.
Right, because the name, that's all.
Yeah, I'm not
Maybe I'm getting
sure. He
confused.
might have been. He
Yeah,
might have been. He's a great
yeah.
guitar player, great vocalist.
Right,
But he's now part of Warrior.
right, okay.
And you asked me who the band members were, and I forgot to mention Larry because he just joined the band. He actually did the Queensryche show with us. That was the first show he did with us.
Wow,
But
that's a great opening for him,
oh yeah,
without a
yeah.
doubt.
Would say that again?
I say without a doubt that is a great opening for him to be on stage with Queensryche and you guys on the.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was great. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. But anyway, so with Larry being part of the band as well, there's going to be him being a vocalist. You're going to hear some different vocals in there with him being part of that, But it's going to be classic Warrior stuff for sure.
I'm really, really looking forward to wearing this next album. If it's anything like Wicked Generation, but more of a heavier kind of thing, then it's gonna kick some serious butt.
It is. It is. It is.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Ray, for doing this interview. God bless, and have a fantastic Christmas and New Year.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you doing this. And like I said, keep me in mind if you come up with any promoters or anything, and then let me know. We'd love to do some shows out there, and we're open to do stuff.
Okay.
We want to just bring Warrior to the masses, whether it be in a 2,000 seater or 8,000, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. We want to get back out there now that we're doing it again. We don't want to do this and then kind of sit stale. I do, like I said, Steve is gracious enough to keep bringing us back to the BMI Event Center in Versailles, Ohio. We've headlined and we've opened. He brings a great group of bands together, and it's become a community. And I think that's starting to come back again. For a while there was nobody really doing anything like that, so I think it's making a good comeback, and we just want to be a great part of that. We want to be pillars in that. We want to be a big part of that.
I know back in the day, you used to play Cornerstone Festival, all of your Recon, Deliverance, all those bands, and that was like a big Christian festival, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that died off because attendance slowed down. But I believe that this Immortal Fest, which is this going to be Immortal Fest 3 now, I think this is going to just continue to grow and grow and grow, because he is bringing secular bands in with Christian bands, and they're going to draw different crowds in.
Yeah,
So
that's good. I mean, like I say earlier on, you're doing the Keep It True in Germany. That must be very exciting for you because there's a lot of old school bands play it. How do you think you're going to fit on that bill with a lot of them not being Christian? I mean, the Germans are going to love you anyway, no matter what.
yeah. No, I think we're gonna be fine. I'm not nervous at all, or just we're just gonna be us, man. We're gonna let the Holy Spirit go before us, and we're gonna just go in there and just do our thing, man. I think we'll fit well.
Brilliant.
I
I'm
think we'll
like,
fit
if you need any record company suggestions, I can suggest some labels for you. I mean, whether you
well.
approach them is a different thing.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. When we're done, we'll stay on. You and I'll keep talking.
Absolutely, my
Yeah,
brother. But like I say, thank you for doing this interview. Do you have anything to say to the people watching this on YouTube, or have you said what you need to say?
yeah. So my biggest thing is like I always say, stay true to God. I know a lot of people go through struggles, and even a lot of my Christian friends. I was speaking with one this morning. He's like, "Man, I'm really depressed this morning. I'm struggling." Reach out to your friends. Be the gospel for them, man. Stay true to God, and don't lose your focus, man. If you're a Christian, keep your focus on the Lord, man. In everything you do, that doesn't mean you're gonna walk around like a living Bible and a zombie, and but just keep it real. Keep Lord the main focus of your heart, and just keep rocking on for Jesus, man. And most importantly, follow Sacred Warrior. Okay.
Right, thank you, Ray. Have a nice day, and we'll definitely keep in touch. I'm going to play your last two, the Obsession and Wiki Generation, when we get off this interview.
Okay, buddy.
I'm gonna belt them out so you can hear them in Florida.
Nice, nice. I'll crank my studio monitors up. Okay, all right, man. You got it, brother.
Thank you, brother. Take care. Have a
Thanks
nice
again, man.
day.
God bless.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
God bless, brother. Bye bye.